Welcome back to another explainer. I am so incredibly excited to dive into this one with you today because we're unpacking a really fascinating puzzle in modern enterprise strategy. We're going to explore exactly how massive, highly regulated global enterprises actually manage to transition from disjointed legacy systems over to unified AI-driven horizontal workflows. And we're looking at this entire shift through the lens of one of the world's absolute largest telecommunications companies, Vodafone, and their rollout of Asana's enterprise AI architecture. To understand why this is so fascinating, let's put the stakes on the table right away. Imagine trying to coordinate a big project. Okay, now imagine coordinating that exact same project across more than 100,000 employees spread out across over 150 countries. How in the world do you deploy artificial intelligence into an environment of that staggering scale without creating absolute operational chaos? How do you prevent every single department from just going off and building their own isolated, redundant AI tools? Well, that is the exact puzzle we're solving today. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is the roadmap we'll be using to navigate this massive enterprise puzzle. First, Vodafone's cross-functional challenge. Second, building the strategic spine. Third, deploying AI teammates. Fourth, enterprise governance at scale. And finally, the 90-day pilot blueprint.
Let's kick things off with part 1, Vodafone's cross-functional challenge.
To truly grasp the brilliance of the eventual solution here, we really have to ground ourselves in Vodafone's actual business reality. This isn't just a story about buying new software. This is about surviving and thriving during a massive corporate pivot. Vodafone is currently undergoing the most significant transformation in its entire history, and this is driven by three very distinct signals. First, there's a massive portfolio restructure and post-merger consolidation. Basically, they're consolidating around fewer, larger markets, which spawns thousands of interdependent work streams. Second, the AI megatrend. They've actually declared generative AI a top 4 strategic priority. And third, they have this massive growth engine mandate. They need to accelerate B2B growth to hit an €8 billion revenue target inside a €144 billion addressable market. So what's the common bottleneck to all of this? It's cross-functional speed. And look, when you have that much complexity, you inevitably crash headfirst into what's known as the unowned middle. This is literally the corporate Bermuda Triangle where cross-functional initiatives just go to die. Think about it. Marketing needs to pass a campaign to sales and then over to delivery. But if nobody actually owns that horizontal flow, the work just stalls out in isolated silos. On top of that, if the tools being used to manage this work only offer tactical value to one specific team, they face immediate drift risk. Without broad executive sponsorship anchoring a tool to real business outcomes, it becomes the easiest possible line item for procurement to slash during a consolidation review. So the big question is, how do you fix the unowned middle and entirely eliminate that drift risk?
Well, that brings us to part 2, building the strategic spine.
The strategic spine is honestly a brilliant metaphor. Instead of letting work just stall out as it tries to jump the chasm from one isolated department to the next, Asana steps in as this foundational connecting layer. It physically bridges departments horizontally. It ensures that enterprise work actually flows smoothly across the entire organizational chart, rather than getting stuck endlessly bouncing up and down within individual silos. And this highlights a totally crucial distinction: a tactical tool versus a strategic platform. A tactical tool is passive software. It's incredibly easy for procurement to cut because it only helps one small team do one specific thing. But a strategic platform, like this Asana deployment, becomes deeply, deeply embedded. It becomes operationally load-bearing infrastructure that holds the entire enterprise together. You don't just cut a strategic spine without completely breaking the back of your business operations. Which leads us nicely into part 3, deploying AI teammates. Now that we have the structural theory down, let's look at the actual technology executing all this connectivity. And this brilliantly illustrates the overall strategy. On one side, you have the footprint engine. These are the Enterprise Plus seats. This expands the surface area. It gets everybody onto the platform. But seats without AI is really just a footprint without any depth. The absolute magic happens right in the middle with the strategic spine and agentic add-ons. This is the AI capacity that's actually monetizing and executing the work. Together, these two engines compound perfectly. The seats provide the massive surface area, and the AI provides the deep, load-bearing connective tissue. In practice, Vodafone uses these AI teammates in two very specific critical roles. First, as workflow optimizers. These agents sit right at those dangerous cross-functional handoffs we talked about earlier. So when marketing finishes a campaign, the workflow optimizer automatically orchestrates that handoff to sales, ensuring absolutely nothing drops in the unowned middle. Second, we have status reporters. These agents completely automate complex go-to-market readouts, taking all that heavy manual reporting burden off of human employees and instantly providing visibility across those 150-plus countries. But here's what really separates this from the pack. It's where these AI teammates actually live. Unlike standard AI tools that just generate a text draft in your inbox or summarize a quick document, Asana's AI teammates live directly in the execution layer. They take AI-generated outputs and turn them into completed, tracked work that moves real projects forward, all locked down within a highly secure permission model. They don't just talk about the work, they actively do the work. All right, part 4, enterprise governance at scale. Now, I know what you're thinking. As soon as you mention autonomous AI agents doing work, every single chief information officer in the world starts sweating. And you solve that totally valid anxiety with incredibly strict, centralized governance, primarily through a feature called Builder Lists inside AI Studio Pro. Think about it. In a company of 100,000 people, if everyone can just spin up an AI agent, you get absolute chaos. You get shadow AI, where marketing and sales are secretly building redundant, siloed bots that do the exact same thing. Builder Lists fix this by determining exactly who has the authority to create and deploy these teammates, keeping the whole process completely professional and tightly governed. On top of that, AI Studio Pro hands the CIO exactly what they crave: absolute control. It runs on predictable credit usage models, so you always know exactly how much AI computing power is being burned. It allows administrators to tweak and manage capacity on a quarterly basis to stay perfectly within budget. And because Vodafone is a highly regulated global telco, it provides the enterprise-scale security they absolutely need, ensuring that sensitive data is never compromised by some ungoverned rogue bot. And finally, part 5, the 90-day pilot blueprint. So, we have the strategy and we have the governance, but how do they actually roll this out without massive scope creep? Well, they use a remarkably disciplined rule of 3 methodology. Step 1, workflow first. You have to build and map out the core business process in Asana first to ensure the operational foundation is completely solid. Step 2, integration second. Once that workflow is pristine, then you connect the necessary technical integrations. And only then, step 3, first teammate third. After the workflow and integrations are humming perfectly, that is when you deploy your first AI teammate to optimize the handoff. You never, ever just throw AI at a broken process. This entire methodology plays out over a very strict 90-day timeline. Days 0 to 30 are for surfacing signals, using basic data to document the impact the tool is already having. Then, days 31 to 60 is the narrow pilot. They take just one single workstream, usually something in go-to-market, with a tiny group of just 15 to 25 users, and they deploy exactly one AI teammate. It's a highly controlled test. Finally, days 61 to 90 are for professional scaling. Once that tight 30-day pilot absolutely proves its value, expanding it is treated as a formally governed scaling motion, not some risky new initiative. Now, what's really interesting is how the ultimate outcome is framed here. By day 90, you aren't just sitting around guessing if the AI works. You have compounded 2 distinct proof points: the value realization documented in the first 30 days, plus the concrete pilot outcomes delivered by day 90. This is exactly how you confidently answer the CIO's AI ROI question. You bring them documented, lived evidence of real value. And that leads us to the absolute end game of this entire enterprise strategy. When you successfully govern and scale these agents, embedded AI workflows become operationally load-bearing. This creates the ultimate stickiness for a software platform. Because at that point, the cost of leaving Asana isn't just the annoyance of switching out a tool. The cost of leaving literally becomes the massive cost of rebuilding Vodafone's entire AI infrastructure from absolute scratch. Which leaves us with a pretty provocative question to ask about our own organizations. Is the AI you're adopting right now just some fragmented, tactical tool generating text in a silo? Or is it deliberately architected to be the strategic, load-bearing spine of your company's execution? It is a fundamental difference in strategy, and as we've seen with Vodafone today, it's literally the difference between operational chaos and governed, sustainable scale. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this deep dive gave you a clear, structured understanding of how massive enterprises are actually making AI work in the real world. Stay curious, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next one.